Good afternoon, students. In previous class, we have seen how sigma bond and pi bond are going to be formed. Okay, I think you are clear about the concept. Even by using the balloons, I have shown that one. In what way p orbitals will be present? Px, Py, Pz. These three are perpendicular to each other. One orbital will be present along x-axis, one orbital will be present along y-axis, and another orbital will be present along z-axis. Okay, total you can see and you can imagine how the p orbitals will be present, as well as how the double bond in oxygen and how triple bond in nitrogen are going to be formed, how overlapping will be taking place. All these things in previous class we have seen, formation of double bond, triple bond, everything. Is it okay? Okay, now at the same time we have seen about sigma bond and pi bond. So in today's class we will start with the difference between sigma bond and pi bond. After that we will shift to next topic in covalent bond only. Okay, these are all we are discussing under the concept valence bond theory, VBT only, included with first H2 molecule, HF, everything, SS overlapping, SP, PP overlapping. Okay, types of overlapping. After that, what about formation of N2 molecule, O2 molecule, and now I am going to say sigma bond and pi bond, as well as next concept. These are all concepts which are included in valence bond theory only. Okay, ma. Now differences between sigma bond and pi bond. Definition: the bond which is formed by overlapping of the bond which is formed by complete overlapping or head-on-head overlapping. That complete overlapping is also called head-on-head overlapping. Okay, head-on-head overlapping is called sigma bond. The bond which is formed by partial overlapping or sidewise overlapping is called pi bond. This is first point and this is first point for pi bond. Definition only. The bond which is formed by complete overlapping or head-on-head overlapping is called sigma bond. The bond which is formed by partial overlapping or sidewise overlapping is called pi bond. Second point, it is strong bond. It is a strong bond. It is a weak bond. Why it is strong bond and why it is weak bond? It is a strong bond because it is formed by complete overlapping. It is weak bond because it is involved in partial overlapping or sidewise overlapping. Okay. Third one, only one sigma bond is possible between two atoms. Only one sigma bond is possible between two atoms. One or two pi bonds are possible between two atoms. One or two pi bonds are possible between two atoms. So these are the differences between sigma bond and pi bond. Note down in your notes. But this is simple only every time. If there is one bond between two atoms, that is nothing but sigma bond only. If there is double bond or triple bond, in that only one bond is sigma bond, remaining bonds pi bonds. In O2 we have seen one. In O2 we have double bond. One is sigma, one is pi. Okay, and triple bond. In triple bond, one is sigma, 2 pi. Okay. What are the differences? The bond which is formed by complete overlapping. The bond which is formed by partial overlapping. The complete overlapping is also called head-on-head overlapping, is called sigma bond. No? The partial overlapping or sideways overlapping is called pi bond. Sigma bond is a strong bond, pi bond is a weak bond. Only one sigma bond is possible between two atoms. One or two pi bonds are possible between two atoms. Okay. Finally, one more point we can write. Sigma bond is independent bond. Pi bond is not independent bond. Without the formation of sigma bond, pi bond is not possible. Without the formation of sigma bond, pi bond is not possible, because first possibility they will check with complete overlapping only. First possibility they will check with complete overlapping only. If complete overlapping is not possible, then only sideways, means partial overlapping, they will take place. Otherwise, directly first itself they will not go for partial overlapping. Without sigma bond, pi bond will not be existed. Remember that point carefully, all of you. Without sigma bond, pi bond will not be existed, because any two atoms, if they approach and they are going to form covalent bond, definitely first they will prefer complete overlapping only. First they will prefer complete overlapping only. They won't go for any partial overlapping, because complete overlapping only will be leading to strong bond. At that time more amount of energy will be released. Okay, this is about difference between sigma and pi bond. Enough. Next, our next concept is polar covalent bond and non-polar covalent bond. What is that? Polar covalent bond and non-polar covalent bond. Okay. First, before going to the concept, what is meant by polar and what is meant by non-polar? Polar means charge. Polar means charge. Pole. In physics, you might have heard the dipole. Di means two. Pole means charges. Two charges. Dipole means two charges. Pole means charge. You have to remember, pole means charge. Here, non-polar means no charge covalent bond. So the covalent bond which does not carry any charge. Polar covalent bond, the covalent bond which develops some charge. That is polar covalent bond. Okay. Now we will go through the example. After that we will see what is meant by polar and non-polar. First, under polar covalent bond, I am going to take example HF. HF. Okay, let us see. Hydrogen and fluorine are going to be involved in bond. Definitely. Hydrogen contains, this is the nucleus of hydrogen. Okay, it contains only one electron in first shell. In first shell, hydrogen has one electron. Next, coming to fluorine. Fluorine has first shell 2 electrons, and second shell 7 electrons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. See all of you. This electron is contributed by fluorine. This electron is contributed by hydrogen. These two are involved in covalent bond. Close this one. This is covalent bond, definitely. We have seen which type of overlapping on this one, sp. S orbital of hydrogen is involved in overlapping with p orbital of fluorine. That one clearly we have seen. Okay, understood. Now the point is here, After the formation of covalent bond here, okay, this bond pair of electrons will be present in between two nuclei, because already I said the example also. The chocolate which is shared by two students will be contributed to both of them, will be belonging to both of them, because it is not present with first student or second student. It is belonging to entirely first and second students, correct or not? So wherever they want to be, the chocolate must be present in between two students, correct or not? Like that here also. Here see, this lone pair and this lone pair entirely belonging to fluorine only, because they are not involved in bond, correct or not? This lone pair and this lone pair, these are all present with fluorine only, because they are not involved in bond. The bond pair which is present between hydrogen and fluorine will be in between two nuclei. This nucleus contains 1 proton and this nucleus contains 9 protons. Fluorine has 9 protons because atomic number of fluorine is 9. Okay, hydrogen has 1 proton. Even though bond is formed, definitely hydrogen is contributing 1 electron, fluorine is contributing 1 electron. Everything is okay. After the formation of bond, that bond is not present between two nuclei with same charges. One nucleus has 1 proton only. This nucleus has how many protons? 9 protons. Because of this difference, and one more thing, this bond pair has which charge? Negative charge. This bond pair has negative charge. This has 1 proton, this has 9 protons. Then automatically what will be happened? After the formation of the bond, this bond pair is not exactly in the middle. Then what will be happened? It is shifted towards fluorine side. Shifted means partially, not completely. If it is completely shifted, that is ionic. That is over. Keep aside. Ionic bond is over, completed. Now we are talking about covalent bond. Even though sharing is taken place, then what will be happened? After the sharing has been taken place, that bond pair of electrons is not exactly present between hydrogen and fluorine because of difference in nucleus charge. This 9 protons will attract the electron pair, bond pair of electrons strongly when compared to 1 proton. 9 protons will attract the electron pair strongly when compared to 1 proton, correct or not? Because more charge is present here. 9 protons means plus 9 charge. 1 proton means plus 1. This plus 1, even though it is competing with 9 protons, it is not able, but it will hold somewhat. Somewhat it will hold, but completely 50% will not be. Okay, so partially this electron pair is shifted towards fluorine side. Because of that, partial negative charge will be developed. Is going to be developed. In ionic bond, if you take NaF, fluorine has complete negative charge. In ionic bond, if you take sodium fluoride, okay, fluorine has complete negative charge. Why? Completely it is gaining electron, na? That's why it is complete negative charge. But here, electron is not shifted towards fluorine completely, because this is covalent bond, sharing is happened. Okay, but because of the unequal nuclear charges, this 9 protons will attract the bond pair of electrons strongly. Because of that, this bond pair is little bit shifted towards fluorine side. Because of that, fluorine has partial negative charge. Partial means incomplete. Complete negative charge won't be there. Little bit negative charge will be developed on fluorine side. On hydrogen side, partial positive charge will be developed. Okay, this is delta, DELTA. You might have known this delta. Even in chemistry, this delta also we will use. Okay, this is also delta. which is nothing but here partial negative, and this is partial positive. Okay, so after the formation of the covalent bond, the atoms are developed by little bit partial negative charge and partial positive charge. Charges are developed or not. The type of covalent bond is called polar covalent bond. Polar means charge. The type of covalent bond is called polar covalent bond. Okay, now one example. Two students I told, okay, two students have 1 rupee each. They entered into the shop and they asked the shopkeeper about 2 rupees chocolate. They got the 2 rupees chocolate and they came out. Okay, now my thing is, in the two students, one student is 10th class. One student is 10th class, big boy. Another student is only 7th class. This student is 10th class, this student is 7th class. Not that much gap, but 10th class student is strengther than 10th class student has more strength when compared to 7th class student. But 7th class student also little bit competition he will give, correct or not? Then what is going to be happen? After coming outside, 10th class student by using his strength, 9 protons, 10th class student by using his strength, he wants to pull the chocolate. But that side, 7th class student also, he is able to somewhat give strength, but not like exactly 10th class student, correct or not? That's why the chocolate is not 100%, sorry, 50-50% shared. 75% will be shared by, 75% will be pulled by 10th class student. 25% it is pulled by, pulled means 25% only it is present with 7th class student. Is it correct or not? Okay, one more example. This 10th class student and 7th class student only, between them one rope you can give, rope. I hope you know tug of war. Okay, so you gave the rope and mention the middle point and start the competition. At once competition is started, that rope will be pulled towards which side? Like this, one rope is there, this is the middle point. Here 10th class student is there, here 7th class student is there. Then this rope will be towards which side? 10th class student only. But entirely this rope cannot be pulled by 10th class student, because 7th class student also he has some strength, but that strength is little bit less than 10th class student. That's why this is pulled towards 10th class student. Is it correct? Like this here also, this electron pair is little bit shifted towards fluorine side. Because of that, what happened to fluorine? Fluorine is developed by partial negative charge. Electron pair is shifted towards which side? That side it is developed by negative charge. Other side, delta positive charge. Okay, after the involvement of covalent bond, if that molecule is developed by slight charges, this is not like ionic charges, little bit less than ionic charges. Okay, developed by partial charges like this, delta negative and delta positive, that type of covalent bond is called polar covalent bond. The type of covalent bond is called polar covalent bond. I hope you understood, all of you. If there is a competition between 10th class student and 7th class student, that rope will be pulled towards 10th class student. Like this here also, the bond is formed. After the involvement in bond, that bond pair is present between 9 protons and 10 proton nuclei. Then that is shifted towards one nucleus, not completely, but partially. Because of the movement of this electron pair, towards which side the electron pair is moved, that side it will be getting partial negative charge. Hydrogen is getting partial positive charge. So I am showing here HF with arrow mark towards fluorine, delta negative, and this is delta positive. Okay, this ability of the atom to pull the bond pair of electrons towards itself is called electronegativity. The tendency of an atom to pull the bond pair of electrons, the tendency of an atom to pull the bond pair of electrons towards itself is called electronegativity. Because of the partial pulling of electrons towards one side, okay, one atom is developed by partial negative charge and another atom is developed by partial positive charge. Okay, this development of partial negative and partial positive charges will be on covalent bond is called polar covalent bond. Is called polar covalent bond. Okay, ma? Next. Coming to non-polar covalent bond, example H2 molecule. H2 molecule is formed between two H atoms. H2 molecule is formed between two H atoms. This is nucleus, and here one electron is present in first hydrogen atom with first shell. Second hydrogen electron. Okay, this nucleus has one proton. This nucleus also has one proton. Then the bond pair of electrons is not pulled by any one side, because this one has how much strength? Even this one also has same strength, because what is the charge present on this nucleus? One proton charge. What is the charge present on this nucleus? One proton charge. There is no difference between charges. Is it correct or not? There is no difference between charges. Then what is the thing will be happen? 10th class students, two 10th class students of same strength or twins are there. Okay, between the twins we gave the rope. Then that rope will be pulled towards which side? Nothing. It will be exactly in the middle. So this bond pair also will not be shifted towards any side. It will be in the middle. Because of that, no atom is getting charge. No atom is getting charge. Because electron pair is exactly in the middle, then that electron pair is shared by two nuclei equally. Because of that, no atom is getting charge. Because of no charge, that is called non-polar covalent bond. Examples for molecules which have non-polar covalent bonds: F2, same atoms, ma. Cl2, Br2, I2, okay, H2, O2, N2. These are all examples for the molecules which contain non-polar covalent bond. Examples for the molecules which contain polar covalent bonds: HF, HCl, HI, HBr, like that, etc. Difference in the atoms must be there to show polar covalent bond. If they have same atoms, then those are all coming under non-polar covalent bonds. Okay, this is about differences between non-polar covalent bond and polar covalent bond. Okay, so completely if you mention non-polar covalent bond, middle polar covalent bond, that side ionic bond. In between ionic bond and non-polar covalent bond, polar covalent bond is there. Ionic bond is completely ionic. Non-polar covalent bond is completely zero charge. In between that, partial charge will be developed on atoms, that is polar covalent bond. Not complete charge, at the same time not zero charge. Okay, that is about this concept. Okay, by this valence bond theory is completed. We have to see the drawbacks. By seeing the drawbacks, we will understand how the next concept will be explained. Okay, note down these examples. All of you, I hope you understood the concept. Okay, that is about polar covalent bond and non-polar covalent bond. We have seen sigma bond, pi bond, formation of double bond, triple bond, and even what about other things, SS overlapping, SP overlapping, everything. Okay, all these examples also we have seen. Clear? So these are all covered under only theory called valence bond theory. Okay, now we will see the drawbacks of valence bond theory and we will go to next. Okay, we will see the next one thing, that is drawbacks. Drawbacks of valence bond theory. Okay, first one. See, valence bond theory, till now, what are the molecules we discussed, man? What are the molecules we discussed? H2, F2, HF, HCl, O2, N2. These are all only Cl2. Like these molecules only we have discussed. These are all molecules which are called diatomic molecules. Diatomic means molecules with two atoms. Two atoms are there. Here one hydrogen atom, one fluorine atom. Two. These are all molecules with diatomic. Means two atoms are only present. Two atoms means one atom is here, another atom is here. Anyways, we will get straight line only. Structure is nothing but straight line only. Correct or not? So these are all diatomic molecules. Valence bond theory successfully explained how covalent bond is formed in diatomic molecules only. How covalent bond is formed in diatomic molecules. But the problem is, if you take examples H2O, CO2, next SO2, SO3, these are all not diatomic molecules. Correct? These are all polyatomic molecules. These are all polyatomic molecules. In polyatomic molecules, structures of these molecules were not explained by valence bond theory. Structures. That only. What is the heading we kept, na? Chemical bond and molecular structure. Bonds, how they are formed, we understood. As well as this covalent bond is directional bond. This covalent bond is directional bond. Definitely, molecules which are contained by more than two atoms, H2O, CO2, SO2, SO3, like these molecules are possible with different structures, like square planar, okay, pyramidal, like the different shapes might be possible. Those shapes are not explained by valence bond theory. For these molecules only it could explain how the bonds are formed. Okay, but when we come to this type of molecules, example CH4, C2H6, for this type of molecules, valence bond theory could not explain the structures. That's why this is the main drawback. So I am going to write the drawback now. Valence bond theory could not explain the structures of polyatomic molecules. Valence bond theory could not explain the structures of polyatomic molecules. Second one, magnetic properties of molecules were not explained. Mainly this is the problem. Valence bond theory could not explain the structures of polyatomic molecules as well as magnetic properties of molecules. If correctly structures were explained, remaining drawbacks might be recovered. Okay, but here main thing is, it could not explain the structures of polyatomic molecules. Okay, what is the problem? Why it could not explain? That one we will see first. Okay, let us see. Let us consider CH4 molecule. CH4 name is methane. We will get in organic chemistry, man. Organic chemistry, what are the names? Everything you will get carbon compounds. Okay, CH4 name is methane. Now, if you explain the structure of CH4 according to valence bond theory, How can we see? Okay, let us see first. Electronic configuration of carbon. Electronic configuration of carbon is 1s2, 2s2, 2p2. One s2, 2s2, 2p2. If you see this configuration of carbon, it has only 2 unpaired electrons. So carbon should form how many bonds? 2 bonds only. But practically it forms 4 bonds. It is proved. That experiment which is useful to say how many bonds formed by carbon, that one also I will say. First let us see that what about this concept. Okay. So this configuration is called ground state configuration. This configuration is called ground state electronic configuration of carbon. 1s2, 2s2, 2p2. Then what is going to happen? See, imagine this black one is carbon. These white balls are hydrogens. Okay. These hydrogens are approaching towards the carbon. While these hydrogens are, see, if this hydrogen is approaching towards the carbon, while this hydrogen is approaching towards the carbon, that carbon is experiencing repulsion force between hydrogen and carbon. You know already, 2 types of forces are there, attractive force and repulsion force. Even attraction force dominates, little bit repulsion force is there. Because of that repulsion force, some amount of energy will be gained by carbon. Okay, that energy will be gained by one of the electrons present in here, 2s. That by absorbing that energy, this electron will be going into here, empty shell, empty orbital. Then that is called excited state electronic configuration of carbon. That is called excited state electronic configuration of carbon. That is 1s2, 2s1, 2p3. Because of the repulsions between carbon and hydrogen, okay, it will get energy. By using that energy, the electron which is present in 2s will be excited to empty orbital in 2p. Then now we have how many unpaired electrons? 4 unpaired electrons. So carbon can form how many bonds? 4 bonds. So it is satisfied. This is simple one only. Like this so many times we will continue even in organic chemistry also. Remember, ground state electronic configuration we will write, as well as excited state electronic configuration also we will write. Okay, when according to the usage. Okay, now see all of you, 1 electron is present in 2s, 3 electrons present in 2p. Correct? Then these 4 orbitals are going to be involved in bonds. In what way? See all of you. This is s orbital, which is contained by 1 electron. 3 orbitals are there, 3p orbitals. Yesterday I have shown with balloons also. Okay, let us see. This is spherical shape. Okay, keep aside. These are p orbitals. This red one pz, blue one py, white one px. Okay, now how many hydrogens we have? 4 hydrogens we have. First, 1 hydrogen will be involved in bond with s orbital of carbon. Complete overlapping only. 1 hydrogen is involved in bond with s orbital of carbon. So sigma bond is formed. Next, remaining how many hydrogens we have? 3 hydrogens. Correct, Olina? So 3 hydrogens, how they will? 1 hydrogen will be approaching along py, 1 hydrogen will be approaching along pz, 1 hydrogen will be approaching along px. So here also This is hydrogen, another hydrogen, another hydrogen, like this. Is it correct, ma? Okay. In this way, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 bonds are formed in CH4. In CH4, 4 bonds are formed. Okay, clear. But problem here only it will be coming. Okay. See, these are 3p orbitals, ma. Here hydrogen is present. Here hydrogen is present, and here hydrogen is present. This is the bond. One bond. This is one bond, and this is one bond. These three are perpendicular to each other only. The bonds which are present along x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis. The bonds which are present along, this is y-axis. Imagine this one, and this is x-axis, and this is z-axis. All the three are perpendicular to each other only. Okay, then what is the angle between the bonds? If they are perpendicular to each other, see ma, this is the bond along py, y-axis. This is the bond along x-axis. This is the bond along z-axis. What is the bond angle? Bond angle is equal to 90 degrees. Bond angle, according to valence bond theory, if you explain the concept, this one only na? According to valence bond theory, if you explain the concept, we are getting bond angle in CH4 as 90 degrees. But experimentally, bond angle is equal to 109 degrees 28 minutes. But experimentally, methane bond angle is equal to 109 degrees 28 minutes. Now, experimentally means X-ray diffraction techniques. By using that X-ray diffraction techniques, we can find the bond angles. That one, at once if you complete this concept, slowly I will tell how X-ray diffraction techniques will be conducted. But that is experiment. Okay, we have to believe experiment or this explanation. We are able to see that experiment only, na? So we have to believe the experiment only. According to experiment, what is the bond angle? 109 degrees 28 minutes. But according to valence bond theory, if you go through the explanation, what is the bond angle? 90 degrees. This is not able to explain valence bond theory, could not explain the bond angle in CH4 as 109 degrees 28 minutes. Because if you are going to explain the experiment, then only it is correct. Rutherford also has done that only. Rutherford took the experiment and he explained. That's why from there it was succeeded. Like this here also, we have to see the experimental value and whether the theory is able to explain the experimental result or not. Valence bond theory could not explain the experimental result. Valence bond theory could not explain the experimental result. According to valence bond theory, this is totally according to valence bond theory, bond angle is 90 degrees. As well as shape also, these three lines must be perpendicular to each other. Okay, but experimentally structure is tetrahedral. Experimental structure is tetrahedral. Experimental bond angle is 109 degrees 28 minutes. According to valence bond theory, 90 degrees we are getting. Structure also different we are getting. Tetrahedral we couldn't get. Both explanations were not explained by valence bond theory. If valence bond theory is able to explain the experimental results, no need to go for another theory. If J. Thomson itself, if he could explain the total atomic structure, no need to go for Niels Bohr model, Rutherford's model, all these things. As that model is has drawback, then only we are going for Rutherford's model. Is it correct or not? Like that here also, as valence bond theory could not explain the structure correctly, as well as bond angle. Bond angle is angle between the bonds. Two bonds, if you imagine like lines, between them what is the angle? That is called bond angle. Okay, if it is able to explain the bond angle correctly according to experimental result, then we can stick on to valence bond theory only. But it could not explain the structure of CH4 correctly as well as bond angle in CH4 correctly. Bond angle in CH4 experimental result 109 degrees 28 minutes. But valence bond theory is explaining 90 degrees. Obviously, there is no correlation. Then we have to go for new theory. And one more thing is there. Okay, practically all the four bonds are same. all the 4 bonds strength is same, but here one is involved in SS overlapping, remaining 3 are involved in SP overlapping. Strength wise different or not? Definitely different, but practically all the bonds are same. This type of things were not explained by valence bond theory. That's why we are going with a new theory called hybridization. We are going with a new theory called hybridization. Hybridization successfully explains bond angle in CH4 110 degrees and structure also tetrahedral. Tetrahedral looks like this. This is carbon, black one. These are all hydrogens. Here definitely angle, bond angle is there. That bond angle 109 degrees 28 minutes. Okay, that degrees and minutes everything I explained definitely. And even this drawback of valence bond theory, I hope you understood clearly. Okay, observe the board, all of you. Only one thing I would like to say, that is, if you depend on completely valence bond theory and if you explain the CH4 molecule, we have to get this like this molecule structure. But this is not the correct structure. This one and this one entirely different one. This is called tetrahedral. Okay, experimental result is this one. And angle also, this is one bond and this is one bond. Between them, what is the angle? 109 degrees 28 minutes. This is correct. This is explained by hybridization. And this is remained as drawback for valence bond theory. So valence bond theory could not explain the bond angle and structure of CH4. CH4 is polyatomic molecule. Even for H2O, like this, any polyatomic molecule structure was not explained by valence bond theory. Okay, that to explain the structures of molecules and stability of molecules as well as bond angles of the molecules correctly, next theory was proposed, that is called hybridization. That hybridization will start in next class. Even by using balloons also I will show clearly, you will get the data. Okay, the tetrahedral today itself I will show by using balloon. See, that correctly here carbon is there. Here like this, black color. Okay, this one here and here hydrogens are there. Okay, this is the shape of CH4 which was not explained by valence bond theory. Okay, you just imagine this is the tetrahedral shape. Clearly it is visible. Even I will take the help of these models tomorrow in tomorrow's class. Okay, I will explain you in what way hybridization successfully explained these structures. Not only for CH4, any molecule I will take the help of this model and I will explain. No problem. Okay, everything you will understand easily. This is very important concept in which if you are the NEET aspirant, from this chemical bond we can expect 4 to 5 questions. Out of the 2 to 3 questions will be asked from hybridization. You have to remember very well. Very important concept. Hybridization is very important concept. Please carefully attend to the classes. Okay. And if you have any small doubt also ask me. No problem. Okay. Mainly till now what are the things we completed? Valence bond theory we completed. But drawbacks of valence bond theory are there. Those drawbacks we have seen. Because of the drawbacks were present, we have to go for next theory. That theory is called hybridization. That theory, everything, how it explained the structures, all these things we will see in next class. Before that, what are the drawbacks of valence bond theory? It could not explain the structures of polyatomic molecules and even bond angles correctly. If you explain the structure, automatically bond angle also will come. If you concentrate on that point, it is enough. It could not explain the structures of molecules, polyatomic molecules clearly. That is the main point. Okay, to explain the structures, next topic hybridization. So that is about today's class. In today's class, what are the concepts we have studied? Okay, we have started with differences between sigma and pi bond. After that we have seen polar covalent bond and non-polar covalent bond, electronegativity difference. Electronegativity definition. What is meant by electronegativity? The tendency of an atom to pull the bond pair of electrons towards itself is called electronegativity. Okay. Polar covalent bond we have seen, non-polar covalent bond. Even I took examples. After that, what are the drawbacks of valence bond theory? By this, valence bond theory is completed. We have seen drawbacks of valence bond theory. And to explain the drawbacks of valence bond theory, we have started with the next theory called hybridization. That hybridization will start in next class. That is about today's class. Have a nice day. Thank you. Thank you all.